Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Painting for Pleasure. I'm your host, Tony Visco. I was asked by one of my students to see whether or not I could help her with a Musk Ox, and I said, you know what, I have not tackled that, but let's give it a shot. So this is what we're going to do today. I drew it out. Actually, here's a black and white shot of the Musk Ox itself. A lot of hair on this sucker, huh? A lot of hair on this guy. Anyway, that's what we're going to do, and I thought maybe it might be fun to do it. So the question is how are we going to handle this, and that's the big question. We've got a light background, sky in the background. We've got a very light area where the Musk Ox is walking on a field. But mainly what she was really interested in was how to handle all of the hair, all the fur. So I thought maybe it might be fun to do that. And we'll get started in a second. So she got this off of a website, I think one of the national wildlife sites. And what I did is I just sort of didn't want to get into the deal of drawing this all out, so I just took it, blew it up, and traced it off. I'm more interested in what happens, or I'm more interested right now, before I get into the drawing of this thing, is to determine how I can handle the flow of all of this nice, wonderful, heavy fur that keeps them nice and warm in the wintertime. So I'm thinking of wetting the paper first, and I'm going to take on, and I'm going to wet the sky up. Well, let's just wet it first here. Let's come in here and I'm thinking, let's just wet it up and see whether or not that's going to work. I mean, this is one of the ways that I think we can make this happen. I think if we keep and I believe me, I'm thinking of this. I don't know this for sure, but I'm thinking if I keep all of the Musk Ox's fur wet, some of this stuff will flow a lot better. And there's a number of things that we can do to make this happen. First thing I want to do, though, is I want to put in a light blue sky, and I'm going to take some cerulean blue, and I'm going to mix this. Now I'm also trying out a brush that I was asked to try out by the Dynasty, the folks at FM Brush Company, to see how much water it would hold for watercolor. I think this is basically, at least my feeling is that it's an acrylic brush, but it might work. So what I'm doing is I'm just coming in here and giving me the feeling of sky. Light sky around here. And actually, you know what? I think we can just deal with some of this fur as being all blue. And what I'm going to do is switch off to a different kind of a brush right now. I'm going to switch off to my 1-inch water lily brush and start to come in here and wet this blue down. I'm going to add a little bit more of a brownish area in here. I'm going to put really nice light red area, red in here. Oh, now, and that's going to mean a little bit of red and a little bit of my pyro red. What I'm doing is I'm taking a little bit of my pyro red here and then adding it to my burnt sienna. But before I even do that, what I'm going to do is take a little bit of yellow ochre. I want it right in this area here. I want to make this hair very, very light. So yellow ochre, I added a little bit of red. I'm just finding a palette here. And I'm going to come in here with a little bit of light yellow ochre. Basically the sunlight is sort of hitting right in this area here. And then it's going to get darker. So we're just going to take some red, and my red brown, the mixture I just made up. What I did is I took my burnt sienna and I added pyro red to it to get this sort of interesting value of color. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm working the hair. If the hair's going in a direction like this, if it's going into a direction that is upper right to lower left, you want your brush strokes, at least I do, want my brush strokes to go in that direction. And it's going to be a little bit darker down in this area here. And as I come around, all of this stuff is going to get real dark under here too. So, but I'm keeping it pretty wet. Here, I'm going to go into take a little bit of my burnt sienna and add it to my French ultramarine blue. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make some of this even sort of darker as we come down here. I'm going to add a little bit more burnt sienna. I want it dark, but I want it brownish. Okay, and I'm going to come up into this area here. I have a horn in here. The face of the ox is in here, and we'll start to describe that a little bit more. But I need this shagginess. I need this woolly, shaggy look. And what I'm hoping for, and I'm hoping that this wet into wet will sort of give me that, is that all of this stuff will fade down here or fuzz out a little bit and create that stringy hair without my going in. I'll move this out of the way. Without my going in and doing much more than that. It'll soften out over here. Now I'm going to, I do want some blue in this area, so I'm going to add a little bit. But that's nice and wet. That's nice and wet. Saturated, actually, you know. So we'll create something that's really interesting. I want to clean up my palette a little bit here, so that I want to clean up the water that I'm working with. And we're going to end up doing the ground, I guess. That is all of this area around the musk ox. Nice light value, nice light color. So I'm gonna clean up the water, and I'll be back with you. Okay, so I've got this, and this is all still nice and wet. I do want to I'm going to wash out my brush a little bit. And I want to pick up some cerulean blue. I'm going to just run some cerulean blue in here. In some of these areas a little bit. Okay. And maybe a little bit of cobalt blue. As I get into this area where it's nice and dark. And we have a little bit of that in the snout. A little bit of this stuff is on the snout. A little bit of this blue stuff. It's actually got to get lighter. A little bit on the too much of a dark side. I want just a little bit of a value in there, and I'm going to end up. Here's where I want it nice and light, just about right in here. I want that sun to hit the top. The sunlight hitting the top of that woolly mass as it comes down. All right, so we're going to get some nice light against this dark, and that blue sky in the background is going to get we're just gonna get it bluer. Let's clear this up. Get a little bit more water in here. I'm going to put a little bit heavier blue and some vibrant colors. I want to be a little bit more blue in there. Now, I wouldn't normally do this. I shouldn't do this actually, but let's see what ends up happening. We'll make this a little bit nicer. I'm going to warm this up as I come down. Warming this up down here. I'm going to add a little bit of my what I just did is I just picked up a little bit of cadmium yellow. Cadmium yellow, along with my new gamboge. The two mixtures, and as I come down here, all of this background area, because this beast is in the field, we're just going to arbitrarily, what we're going to do is just come in here and create some interest. And a little bit more yellow in these areas here. And this guy is walking on stone, so we want a little bit of nice light, sort of. I'm going to add a blue, but I'm going to add a blue with a little bit of my, I'm going to take my cerulean blue, I think is what I'm going to do, and add my cerulean blue to, and add my opera rose to my cerulean blue. Take a little bit of opera rose, a little bit of cerulean blue, and we're going to create a little bit of some more cerulean blue here. And a little bit of opera rose, as I said. And we're going to end up coming down here, and I want this beast that's going to walk on some of these rocks that are down in this area here. Okay, so now we can continue with this. What's going to happen is that what's going to be nice and light and white is the horns. Which I would say is all of this area right here. We want to pull the water out of here. Okay. And probably out of here. Let's make this nice and light there. And we're going to do this nice soft feeling on the snout as it comes down from the top. Okay. And the snout colors in there, and some of the snout colors down in this area here. Now we're going to make the snout a little bit darker. We have right now something that's happening here. We want to make sure that we cover this. We want some light in some of these, so we're going to just pull some of this out. Now, what I'm doing is, see how nice and light this is? We'll darken some of that up, not all of it, but I want to just create some light that's hitting some of the fur that's coming down. with all this sort of interesting massive fur that these guys have on. Because that's going to be the key element, I think, for a lot of this. So we're getting there. It'll be a slow process. Well, not too slow. Let's see what we do. We want to come in here in the eyes, put some value in here, and I'm going to go, that value is going to be, again, a little bit of my, this time cobalt blue, adding a little bit of my upper rose to my cobalt blue. And I'm going to work this darker, but I'm just going to start around the eyes. And around the eye socket. I'll get that nice and brown pretty soon. And we're going to have this big area right here. These guys are sort of interesting animals. And it's sort of dark as it comes down in this area here. Certainly it's going to be dark back here. I need to keep this guy woolly. Woolly is a good word. I think woolly will work. We want him woolly, like a woolly mammoth, only this is a musk ox. I guess they're related. So this, we'll bring that down like that. We'll bring this guy over here, and he's got a big, now, you know, I see you're going to sit down and say, well, gee, Tony, he's not, you know, they don't have that blueness. That's all kinds of, that blue in the heaviness of the eyes. But you know what? I find there's all kinds of colors in these animals. And it's not just, if you just paint it brown, you know, if you look at the hair, for instance, and it just looks brown, it just, you need to change it up. You got to move from warm to cool, and you need to move from light to dark, and it has to go from one color to another. All of that is important. All of that is extremely important. And so we're gonna make this as interesting as we can with all this stuff. So before we start to do any hardline work, now we have right now we have this real strong dark color on his legs when he comes down. And okay. We got a nice dark area right here too. So we'll bring this down into this. And we're going to end up doing real dark area under here, and maybe a little bit there. I see this is dark. And I see this all is dark over here too. See how soft this is? You see that it's all dark. And there's always dark, for instance, right here, up just above the horn. In these areas here, just above that horn, you got that interesting color. And I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in and get some yellow ochre to start with, and bring some of that yellow ochre in, and then we'll make it darker and darker. How's that? And as we come down and around, maybe a little bit of more reddish. You know, we can have some fun with this because you don't need to necessarily stick with the actual colors. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that's going on here. So the idea here is I'm getting a small brush, and they have this sort of middle, you know, this sort of division right here in the middle. Interesting when we start to work with this stuff, because you pick up and learn a lot from analyzing how all of this fur is playing. So I'm going to come in here and we're going to end up doing some softer, brighter, softer, redder, if you will, area. Maybe some of this is going to be yellow ochre in that area. A little bit heavier pigment now. See what I'm doing? I mean, I got all of this beautiful light stuff that's going on over here, but I want to put some heavier pigment so that I can create some of this fur that comes down. I guess they call it fur. All right, some of this stuff's in shadows. But notice, what I want you to notice is that I'm playing in, or I'm applying my pigment still in that strong, heavy, wet area. It's not so much that it's wet anymore, it's pretty damp now, so we can play around with it, but I can still have it, putting these strokes in this very damp area gives me the opportunity that I have to keep it very soft looking. You know, what I'm trying to do is to avoid hard edges or hard lines, and it's critical that I do that because most of this fur doesn't need to be hard. You want to create it as soft as possible. We can put some hard lines in later. We can always do that. For instance, we're going to come down here. See, I'm going to still do this now. It's starting to dry out a bit, so I'm using a little bit more water. All of this is shaggy. It's all shaggy looking. Okay. There's real dark areas in some of this areas here. So we're going to use, again, mix up. I'm going to start to go to a smaller brush, and I'm going to get a round brush pretty soon. I want to get this. This is dark. And this is dark in here. Right. And this is real. We're doing this. We'll see how it comes out. Okay. So while I'm letting that, I'll let that play around a bit. We need to get that even more, we even need this darker actually under here. So let me take a look at my image of my guy here, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, we got this coming over this way here. This is a little bit gray. Okay. Okay. Now I don't want to do the horn. I want to do the horn, but I don't want to get the horn sort of mixed up with everything else here. So the horn, I'm going to do a little bit of my opera rose, and mix that opera rose with my cerulean blue to get that little nice grayish look. And we're going to come in here and give it a little bit of a little bit of this. And the horn is going to come down. We're going to get a little grayed up here. We're going to put them real dark over there. And what I'm going to do now, I want to get a smaller brush still, round brush. I've got some plant life that is very interesting here. Let me get my new gamboge. Let's get some new gamboge in here. We got some real bright petals, leaves, flowers. You know. Add a little bit of my, I'm gonna get this a little bit in the greenish side here. New gamboge, cerulean blue. All right, now this is new gamboge over that cadmium. Remember when I put that in there? Now we're gonna just give this a little bit of a greenish, softer touch in here. What's happening is we got some of this on that rock, so we'll just let it go. Some of this stuff down here in the rock, some of this green is going into the rocky areas that we've got down here. And we got some interesting kind of yellows. And I guess we could just put those in. I'm just going by what my friend who wanted this done felt that she was looking for. So we'll come in here, we're going to get the yellow, get a little bit of a brown, make it yellower. Burnt sienna and my new gamboge. And we're coming in here where it's literally light for the eyes in and around here. Okay. We're going to come in, give it something like that. Some of this sort of interesting hair. Lift it out a bit. Listen, working with the tissue does a lot. Okay. All right. My horn is a little bit on the dark side right there. Okay, we'll continue it. We'll make this work. Hopefully we'll do a good job of it too. Maybe not, but we'll see. We just need to get this more interesting there and around here and so forth. Well, let's get that mouth in too, because that mouth is fairly gray brown. A little bit of cobalt blue. And I'm going to do this. Do that. Come down here, we got this nostril. It's doing this. Comes down to that point there. Has one of these. Some hair coming down here. tip of that that tip of this. It's a little bit too dark. We don't. All right. And we do the same thing over here. We got this really dark tip right here. Really dark tip. All right. Now, how much do we really need in here to just suggest this fur? All right, and we're going to come back up here. We got all this we have to put in. All this wonderful, wonderful area up here where it's nice and bright. We need to darken up. We need very definitely to darken up down in this area, so we're going to start to put in some little darker areas. Now you're going to be very careful because I really don't want this to get hard-lined necessarily right now. So you got to make sure that I'm losing my water here, my wetness, my dampness. I'm trying to keep my head also out of that camera, so hopefully we'll see what happens, but maybe with any luck we have done so. We'll see. I want to continue with my grass down here. Now I know you're probably on the actual photograph, it's not this, but I'm fudging this in. It's going to be close, but it won't be exact, because what I'm doing is I'm just making leaves. This is blurred, so this is going to be sort of blurred off into that sky area. I want to get some of these rocks in too. And the bottom of the bottom hoof. Again, yellow. What I'm doing is, again, in the hoof area, I need this to be, I'm going to take a little bit of my cobalt blue, add a little bit of my opera rose to my cobalt blue, and come down here, because we have that hoof. I need it to be grayer actually, so let's Let's just go in cobalt blue. Make it a little bit grayer. And I don't want this so dark. I want this lighter. Now let's see if I can take and remove and put that aside. I'm putting my photograph aside here. Let's see if I can remove some of this. Go back to the white, or make it lighter anyway. I'm gonna go back to the white of the paper if I can do that. Hopefully my head is not in there. I hope not. Okay. And we'll just come down with a darker material, more pigment, heavy pigment, very little water. Heavy pigment, very little water down here, right? Okay. Heavy pigment, very little water. Enough, just the moisture, enough so that I can create this. This is like butter. And we're going to go right down into this area here too as well, because this is all, we're going to change up the color. Okay, am I getting there? I hope so. Slowly getting there. Little diamonds in the rough. Little diamonds in the rough. I want that bright. I want that bright, nice and bright. The sun is hitting this sky. Okay. A little bit of nice burnt sienna here. It's always good. Keeps. All right, burnt sienna. Burnt sienna. Always mix it with a little bit of red. Burnt sienna with a little bit of red. Look. Do this, and we can create this. Alright, so as we get over here, the same thing, we're going to add some red. This is pyrrole red in that area too. Then we're going to just do a little bit of tinge of that in here. Now, I don't know if this is dry enough yet, but we have this beautiful, gorgeous eye. A lot of light underneath it here. This is all. It's going to be dark. It's going to be red. All right, we'll darken up some of that eye too. So we just need to still make this even darker, don't we? Okay. Some of this is really interesting colored blue. It's going to these are my stones. Now I don't want to make too much attention on all of this stuff. Soften this up, soften this up. All right. How dry do I have to be? How light do I have to be? I'm going to end up doing exactly the same thing over here. Look at you. What's that horn? Ooh. Okay. So you can see how we can do the hair. Now I can continue to work this so I can soften this up a little bit more here. Drag some of this color down, make some of this lighter. I'm going to soften this up a bit by adding just a little bit of water. And well, I got this Indian red in here, which I don't want to use too much of, or Van Dyke brown. It probably is what it is. It's a red brown, but I don't. It's a flat color. I don't like it. There's no brilliance to it at all. So let's see what I can do with a small brush here to create that eye. It's pretty dark. The eye is brown. The eye is brown. Now, let me see if I can get in there without getting my head in there. I need this. Don't want to put my arm in that. keep going over. You see, one of the things about doing something like this is like doing a portrait. You need to get the certain areas nice and dark so that the others will stand out. And around this eye, I'm going to end up having to do a lot of this tiny work to make this more realistic. And what happens is that this is all short hair, not long hair up in here. So these are little short strokes. All up in this area, and you need to make it dark enough so that it works. Let's get some. I don't want to get it too thick, but we need to get it so that it works. These are all sort of short-haired strokes. Around the snout. This is really, I'm making this dark. Using the short hair up here on the snout. Not long hair, but short. So it's going to take a little bit of time to do this, but it needs to be done. They've got to give the illusion of a short hair. You need the illusion of that, you know, I mean. And hopefully we're doing that. Oops. Let's get some soft color on that. Some this is bone, but color on that. And we'll do some do that. We need this really dark. Where? We need this dark right under here. Notice I keep going back into these dark areas because the dark areas, first of all, it's important, but in order to get that horn to be as dramatic as it is, nice. I need to get that nice and dark. And I suppose what we can do is always go back in once this is done and complete. And put a wash over the whole thing, but let's see if we can do it this way first. This is kind of a woolly. Woolly, 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 woolly. A little bit of reddish. Yeah. Okay, some nice heavy black on the tips again. I lost most of that. Let me do this. Do that. I'm going to take this here, get a little bit of water, and I'm going to soften up this nostril in here a little bit more. I think we pretty much got it, hopefully. I do want to create a little bit more dark. And I think that's going to be it. Now, how do I differentiate? Because I want to kill that line. How do I make this? Bone area. Now, I'm just going to probably kill the line, I think. And we'll probably have to come back and clean it up. Okay, let's just take a look. I think that's going to be about my painting. for now at least. Put it aside. I think it'll look okay though. We'll get rid of some of these lines. Maybe have to put in a few more darks. We'll see. I think we're pretty much there right now. At least for the purposes of what my friend wanted me to do, and I think we're all set. I just do want to do one of a couple of things here. Just bring some of these flowers stems. I don't want to get these two. I want to get these two. I want to keep them all nice, light. Okay, so for now, I think that's going to be it. I believe we've at least got to the point where we're okay with all of this stuff. Maybe brush in a little bit more value up here. And add a little bit more tint. I'm going to come in here a little bit more, soften that up, and I think we're just going to softening this up too. Can we do this? There you go. Okay, that's it for now. I'm your host, Tony Visco. We will probably check this in the morning, but I think we got a good piece here. What I want to do is just walked away from it for a bit and looked at it, and I think I need to just get this a little bit more of a shape. So this is the outside of the horn, and this is whiter in here, so that this is actually going to make a turn. Clear water. This is all okay. The only other thing I think I want to do is create a nice light, bright kind of feeling there. Okay, a little bit of final on this. Get this a little bit darker. This is fairly dark down here. I'm using the big brush to get a little bit more tint, I guess. I'm going to deal with the softness of this. And I think pretty much we pretty much have it. A little tinting of the tops here. And I'm going to let that go, and I think we're going to call this Musk Ox. We'll call that a painting. At least for now. I think that's probably going to do it. The shag. Yeah, I can keep going into this all day long, and I'm just probably not gonna. Now we're getting a little bit too ridiculous, I think, on this. I think I think that's going to be it, my friends. I think this is going to be it. I just want to bring in a little bit of light in the nostril. Okay, so there's my Musk Ox. I think I could probably even make this even darker, but I think what I'm going to do is leave it alone. I got a general feeling it looks accurate, and just the way to do some of that hair, all that hair, that fur. So thank you for being with me. I'm your host, Tony Visco. This is another episode of Painting for Pleasure. I hope you enjoyed this one. And again, you can catch me on my website, www.panthonyvisco.com. If you want to see some of these demos, I've done a number of them. You can go to YouTube. It's P. Anthony Visco on YouTube. Just type in P. Anthony Visco, it should come up. Probably got about 80 or 90 of them. No, about 70 or 80 of them in there. Different demos. So thank you again for being with me. Appreciate it. Till next time, enjoy watercolor painting, and remember to always paint for pleasure. Thanks. Bye-bye.